How we doing today, guys? The focus, this week has been on improving. What we talked to the players about on Sunday when we watched the film was, it's really, really important what kind of progress you make from the last scrimmage to the next scrimmage. We're going to coach each player to the player they can be, not necessarily the player they are right now. Sometimes we have to push them a little bit to get them to understand what it takes to be a dangerous player, which is what's going to make us be a dangerous team. And that all starts with intangibles like effort, toughness, being responsible to do your job, not make mental errors, make the other team beat you. So those are the kind of things that we're, really working on. I think it's important that our leadership on our team, because it's difficult right now. It's hot outside. It's camp. People are trying to grind through it. That, leaders have to lead in all conditions, and they have to affect people in a positive way. And that's something that we want to challenge our leadership on our team with. But, it's tough conditions. We've tried to balance the conditions that we practice with our players. We have a lot of systems and protocols in place, whether it's taking breaks in practice where the players go in the ice machine or ice tent over there so they can get their body temperature down. We really work hard on hydration. So we're really working hard on we don't go outside too much. We try to practice at night some when it's a little cooler. We go out there sometimes in the daytime because we'll probably end up having to play a game or two in the daytime in pretty difficult conditions. I mean, it usually happens that way around here. So we're trying to create a balance, for that. The second scrimmage is a little different than the first scrimmage, and we try to make it a little more game-like. Players have to know the situation in the game and sort of manage those things a little bit better rather than running out there running plays, which is, kind of how you start. So trying to expose our players to as many different situations as we can as we prepare them for the season. From an injury standpoint, we don't really have any new injuries. We got guys that are a little nicked up, whatever. LeBron Ray has, come back and started practicing on a limited basis. We'll see how he progresses. Stephon Wins probably has a high ankle sprain. He'll probably be out for another week. We expect DJ Dale to start practicing on a limited basis, tomorrow. Those are some of the guys that have been out. You probably ask about the competition at the linebacker position, and all I can tell you is there's a lot of competition there, and we need somebody that will step up and be responsible to do a job, develop the confidence of the other players around them, and develop confidence in themselves that, they can go out there and play winning football, for us regardless of the circumstance or the situation. So whichever guy steps forward to do that the best, that's who will win the job.
Just what have you seen from your offensive line that you've liked so far in campus, especially the interior, and what do you think about the overall depth there?
Well, I like the offensive line. I think we've got some pretty good experience there. I like the two tackles that we have. I think they've both had really good camps. We have 4 or 5 guys that can play inside that have done really well. So without naming specific players, I think we can have a really good offensive line. We've had players sort of nicked up, missing a practice here, missing a practice there. I'd like to get them all out there so we could try to put the best group together and try to get our best 5 out there, which I don't know that we've ever had the chance to do to this point. But, I feel better about the number of players that we have at that position now than I've had most of the time in the past. So I feel pretty good about it.
Left side with Michael. With that group, how's Landon Dickerson fitting in now? He's been here about a week and a half now.
I think Landon Dickerson has done a really good job. He's really tough. He's a very physical player, very smart. He's played center and guard both for us. And have that diversity as a player is really important, I think. And I think he has a unique perspective on, coming from some place that maybe the players didn't have it quite as good as they have it around here. And I hope our players really understand, what they have, the opportunities that they have, and that their focus is really in the right place, which is on our team being good. I think sometimes, players don't realize, they get a little self-absorbed and they think about how things affect them. But really, playing good and winning help players more than anything else. And the reason our players get all the accolades that they get and all the notice and attention that they get is because they're good players, but it's also because we win. And I think players need to keep that in perspective, because that's a very important part of why we have so many players that get opportunities at the next level and get recognized for what they do here as a football player while they're at the University of Alabama.
Coach, on stay on the left with Cecil.
Coach, Miller Forrestall's back at tight end. How's the competition there? And particularly, how's Giles Amos looked to you as a kind of a walk-on candidate?
Yeah, he's done a nice job, and he's tough, and I think he can play a role for us this year. We have got to make improvement at that position. We have guys that have ability. They don't have a lot of experience. They need to develop confidence in what to do, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way, and then when they go out there and execute, do it the right way so that they develop the confidence that they need to go out and do their job well. So I think we have guys that are capable of doing that. Miller's probably the only guy that is sort of old enough, that has enough experience, that kind of gets it. I think the other guys are going to have to develop that, and they've made progress. And Giles has done a good job in taking advantage of the opportunity that he has because of the lack of depth that we had at that position, and he's got a lot of repetitions, and he's taken advantage of it.
What caught your eye about Brian Baker during the hiring process, and how have you seen the defensive line improve under his coaching?
Well, I like Brian. I think he has a really good personality. I think he does a good job of managing his room. He has good relationships with his players. I think they have confidence in him. I think he's very knowledgeable. He's enthusiastic about his work, and the players respond well to him. But we have a lot of young players at that position who need to develop and need, to really pay attention to the fundamental details of how they need to play their position and understand what it's going to take for them to be successful, because we certainly need depth at the defensive line, and how these young guys that we have progress is going to be a real key for us.
Up front here with Kurt. She's coming around Kurt.
Coach, I'm not asking for a comparison question. CBS has tried to do something impossible, choose an all-time all-star college team, and I wonder, just off the top of your head, if there's a quarterback that you've seen in your years you think's the best quarterback you've ever seen in college.
What comes to mind for me when you ask the question about quarterbacks, it's some of the guys that, when I was a defensive coordinator in the NFL, it just happened to be that there were some really, really good quarterbacks. John Elway was a really good quarterback at Stanford when I was at Ohio State, and he impressed me a lot. But he also impressed me a lot when he played for the Denver Broncos. And Dan Marino impressed me a lot, because it just seemed like there was a time whenever they had to go 2 minutes to win the game, he was going to do it. And we were ahead of him in Cleveland, and they got the ball back with 1:20 or something to go in the game, and he trots on the field, and you got your guys around you, and you've been stopping them all day, and he kind of looks at you, and you kind of look at him, and the players kind of look at him, and he knows he's going to win, and your players know he's going to win, and that's a bad feeling. And then he goes out and wins. So I remember those days more than just college. But I think maybe there's a reason for that, because I think in the NFL, the game is a little bit more quarterback oriented, if that makes sense. But Tom Brady played really good against us when I was at Michigan State. We actually won the game 34-31 or 31-28, but it was because they played a different quarterback half the game. And I think the programs that so many good coaches through the years have had, that so many players come back and say, I learned so many lessons from Coach Bryant or Woody Hayes or whoever they played for, George Perlis, whatever. And so that's the perspective that I see the game from. You know, not from the stands, not from the fans, although I love our fans, and we certainly want to have a great product for them to be enthusiastic about. And I think the game has provided a lot of entertainment and a lot of interest for a lot of people. But I think the NCAA and NCAA sports are fantastic for young people. And I think that's the best thing about the game that I can say.
What qualities do you look for at the center position, maybe even outside of just athletic prowess?
Well, I think initial quickness is really important. Obviously, you have a responsibility to snap the ball that starts just about every play. So your ability to do that with, especially in the gun, with accuracy. If quarterback's under center, you got to get the ball up and be able to step quickly and block somebody, which everybody else on the offensive line doesn't have that task. So initial quickness is helpful. To have some explosive power to be able to get movement inside is very important, and to have good enough feet to be able to slide and be a good pass protection person is probably another quality. But there are not very many guys that are really good centers that don't have a big picture understanding to make calls and help other players play better. And I think that's also a really important quality. All right, thank you.